So, Aki, thank you. This is me. Is that coming through?
Yep, got it.
Okay. Right, I'll move on to then the first slide. Okay, intelligent actions, a complete workflow automation. So what's that? So I can tell you what goes in the middle. Any business with more than a few people benefits by better communication by using the workflow and the real-time reporting where jobs are. Workflow, sequence of industrial, administrative, or other processes through which a piece of work starts from the beginning and goes through to the end. And both the curse and the advantage of my challenge is it can work in any industry, in any process. Basically what we do, we've got a system which takes a web form, i.e. something like a large Word document, which is linked to a database, and it's context sensitive. So various people in the flow only see the bits that are relevant to them. And because it runs as a SaaS software in a cloud, the implementation is available for every client on a smartphone, a tablet, or a PC. So that's what it looks like to work with intelligent actions. And this is how it looks to manage with one of our systems. Now, we capture the workflows by using SCORE, and I'll show SCORE later, which is a world-class capture software. And then we implement the workflow using our software as a service, iActions code. It's a scalable cloud architecture. The first release goes up to 300 users, and that's merely a limitation that we've imposed by the platform we're running on, which makes it, though, ideal for the SME marketplace. Some definitions. If a business does something once, it's a project. If a business does something more often, it's a workflow. Now, my problem is not the back end doing the workflows, it's actually getting the number of designs. So the way I'm taking it to marketplace, 90% of implementing a workflow is the capture, which we don't do. So we're looking to partner with change agents who can help a business improve its workflows. These are the people who will sit down with a company and a team of people and say, well, what do you do? How do you do it? Does it do it like this? And invariably, when you do that, you find that people in the room have a misunderstanding of how the company actually works. So process capture can be either a client's photograph of a process on a whiteboard, in which case we can put it into SCORE, or by the use of these change agents. So who is a change agent? It could be a management consultant, a change consultant, a business mentor, digital transformation consultant, business analyst, pretty much a lot of people. Now, going to the SME marketplace, there are not people don't use workflows. So these people, change agents, don't really exist as such. So it's something new. So what we're telling our change agents is that we're looking to partner with established companies or self-employed consultants who can introduce workflow technology. Most SME companies do not use workflow automation as they lack the expertise to implement it themselves, or they think it's too expensive. We have a low-cost solution ready for the market, and now even the smallest of companies can afford our high-quality workflow technology. Now, it's not actually workflow automation. Technically, it's called workflow process digitalization. And this is a means that we don't replace people with machines, which is automation, but a means of routing the right work to the right person at the right time. So our aim is to make people less isolated, more productive, and in control of their workload. So the change agent role, they facilitate the capture of the client's business using SCORE, and they facilitate the introduction of low-cost cloud-based workflow automation. And change agents benefit by the fact that they can charge their fees, their consultancy fees, for these additional services. And there's no cost to them because we provide them with all the software. So we provide change agents with free access to SCORE, free training on SCORE, free training on the workflow process, free training on the workflow automation. So a change agent joins intelligent actions with their own user workspace and free score training. As soon as a change agent client, i.e. their client engagement begins, the client purchases access to score to store the information of their client on, and it's funded by their client. So when the process is captured, the client purchases access to iAction software. So everything should be as simple as possible, but not simpler. Now, I've got a 2-minute demonstration of score. Shall we move straight on to that?
Yep.
It probably answers a lot of questions.
Score is an online process mapping and analysis software designed for use in live collaborative workshops. The framework is based on 2 simple shapes: a what box that describes the work done and a why box that describes why the work is done, providing context to each work activity. This simple approach ensures all stakeholders are on the same page, understanding the common way of working. Drag and drop images and icons to visually enhance your process. Note boxes allow you to annotate a process, for example, unanswered questions and other notes. Break down high-level steps until you reach the required level of detail. You can navigate diagram hierarchy using the breadcrumb. The roles performing the work are captured directly on the what boxes, keeping the process simple and readable. Score supports RACI, RATSI, or any responsibilities matrix of your choice. Capture additional information, such as a text description of the step. Also capture information such as risk, issues, ideas, improvement opportunities, and durations. Using the process that has been captured, Score will help you gain further insight into your process. Let's start with the roles. Understand role usage across the process. All role descriptions are automatically generated from work activities, with additional information such as collaborations and handovers with other roles. Gain instant insights on role utilization. All the information captured as attachments can be analysed to help you better understand your process and make informed decisions. Identify bottlenecks and build a business case for change by capturing durations and costs against each activity. Enrich with company branding, links to related information, and embedded instructional videos. And finally, you can approve and publish the process to create an official version. Each process has a comprehensive history of previous versions, which can easily be rolled back to. Map your processes at the speed of conversation, produce incredible insights, engage and continuously improve within your organization with Score.
Right, that's it for me.
Brilliant. Thanks, David. Does anybody have any questions?
Just a comment. I would think there's some synergy there between you and Linda.
We did have we had a one-to-one, and I did sign up to the Score free trial. Admittedly, David, it's run out and I haven't managed to actually get into it in any great depth. But yeah, we had some quite interesting, well, I have a conflict in opinion. So yeah, we've had the discussion, James.
Okay.
I've got a question for you, David. So in terms of your actual target audience, who are you reaching out to? Can you give us an idea for the kind of businesses and size and what have you?
Well, this is both a blessing and a curse. I can give you a rundown of 3. First one is a small electrical contractor, product PAT testing, where you do portable appliance testing. He's got 10 engineers and he works a 15-hour day trying to maintain his business, keeping everyone busy and up to date. And what we're doing is we're working out what he does and documenting it and turning it into a workflow so that he can take on a second person to do what he does, but being guided. through that process. So that's one application. Another application is in the farming industry. Somebody spent £250,000 on a milking machine, and he has to have 3 people operating it, and they each work 8-hour shifts. But in running a milking machine, you have to do certain statutory things like sampling milk, sending off tests, recording tests, making sure you get batch approval, etc., etc. And he's doing the whole of that on an Excel spreadsheet, and it's not working terribly well. What we're doing is looking at this, so we can replace it with a workflow. There'll be full compliance testing, and he'll be able to know who did what, where and when, what jobs are outstanding. It's actually who needs to do something. The third item, completely different again, a major building company has 16 sites across the UK. What they do at the beginning of the morning, starting at 7:30, is they ring up every one of their site engineers and discuss what the issues are for the day. They then go away for a couple of hours and work out what the priorities are, and then ring back all the 16 site managers and say, well, this is what your priorities are. And what we're trying to do is capture every possible contingency that these site managers would come across, put it into a large web form. And now the idea being is that rather than having to have these round robin calls, the site managers can complete their forms or update them during the day at any time, and the information is immediately collated through central office. So, you know, it's literally anything that you do more than once that can be documented as a process, we can automate or digitalize.
Okay, that's some good examples. Thanks.
So David, I'm trying to sort of think about. I looked at the demo with interest, and obviously I'm trying to compare to some enterprise tools like, you know, Visio or you know, Microsoft Forms and things like that. But I noticed you've got other sort of functionality around things like that.
My company doesn't make. I mean, we have no. We use Score. We basically replaced our front end by Score for a simple reason. When you capture a process, Visio is very good at getting a 2D representation, but in a real process world, what you actually want is a stack of 2D drawings, because you've got to capture the interactions between the different levels, i.e. between the different people involved. So you actually, Visio can't do it. What Score can do is it can add layers effectively. Now, from my perspective with workflow, we actually use a subset of what the capability of Score does, and we use it in a particular way, but I can do that and talk about that another time. But what Score allows people to do is when you're in a room capturing information, if the risk person says, oh, this is risky here, you go, ka-ching, you put in a risk note. Somebody says, oh, this task takes so much time, put in the time note. And all of those little notes can be automatically, and that's the nice thing, they automatically come out and report. You touch a button, have risk report, touch a button, have a time report. And that's the subtlety that makes Score so powerful.
That's kind of where I was going with my question. So thank you for that. In terms of, is it the subtlety, as you put it, the extra functionality around races, risk and issues logs and things like that that's coming out of this over and above Visio?
Yes, and they're beautiful. One of the strengths of this, particularly in the difficult times we are now, is that you can work normally. You know, you used to work in a room with people to capture a process, and everyone would have their say, and you'd work out what the sense was. Now you can do exactly the same thing remotely, because everybody's got their Score picture. As you are talking and somebody is talking, you can operate it, and you put in your what box, you put it in your Y box, you put in the note. If anybody makes a comment, you can capture that comment. It might probably be irrelevant in the greater scale of things, but you've got the engagement. So it's very powerful. Now, the only thing I can say to you guys here is obviously love to sign people up as change agents, but we have, because of my relationship with Score, there is a minimum sign-up rate when you actually use Score for business. I have a mates rates deal, which I can enroll you. Basically, it's normally a minimum of 5 users. I can enroll people as a single user, and it's about £6 or £8 a month. It's not a large sum of money.
So David, this is Paul. So this is not just a documentation tool, it actually does run the workflow process. Is that right?
Two halves. You capture the process with score, and literally within a couple of days of somebody giving me a score provided in the format that we train people to use, we can bring back a workflow system. And it's not a simulation, it's the actual system. So you'll sit there, you basically, with our workflow, you have effectively 2 windows on your browser. One is the jobs that are queued up for you, which I can choose, depending on the setup. You can either choose which order you do them in, or it can be assigned to you in a particular order. And then you have the job itself, which is basically a large form or a small form with the information that you have to add. I mean, with designed.
Is that where the iActions come in that you mentioned?
That's right. I'm former Zyratex, which was IBM's disk drive company. We had 30. We used something called SAP, SAP. £1.5 million installation, but to drive it, you had to know about 36-letter mnemonics. We made disk drives. We had only 30 customers, but they had each of them might have 20 sites. We'd get a faulty disk drive in, and we'd have to send it back out or replace it. Now, if you didn't, each drive has a unique number. If you didn't capture at the time when the drive came in, you had to go through probably 8 or 10 sequences with different people to identify where that drive came and where it went out to. What we did is we simply, when the drive came in, we put the drive number down, we said where it came from, and that information in our system, or the forerunner of what I do, would load SAP with the right information. It would act as what we call a wrapper. So that's another use of my technology, is that if you already use something like an iTrade system within your contractors industry, there's 30% of it that's not in a common package. We can put in that 30% that's custom to a particular company, and then feed and drive the more general purpose software directly.
Okay.
I'm just conscious of time. I know, Linda, you've very formally raised your hand using the emoticon thing. So if it's just a quick question, then we can move on.
I don't know if it's a quick question. I'll ask it, and then maybe David can come back to it at a later date, or we can email it.
Yeah.
I'll send you the challenge.
David,
Go on.
following our one-to-one, obviously I mull over these things, and I had been discussing with you the fact that I prefer to do the old-fashioned brown paper process. And one of the things that occurred to me just rewatching the introductory video today is, are you able to, in an administration process, for example, are you able to upload the actual documents or screenshots of the information that administrators are having to manipulate to actually be able to analyze the detail of what information is being used, where it's coming from, where it's going to, and whether it is accurate, whether it's viable, etc., etc.? Or is it only process?
Just checking my understanding there. Is this during the process capture stage, or is it during the workflow stage?
I don't find there any difference between the two processes. Workflow to me. The
answer to the question is actually yes and yes.
Yeah.
In the first stage, it will be loaded into the score program. In the operational mode, when you're actually doing it live in an implementation of a workflow, then obviously it's into the workflow system.
Yeah, so there is a tool by which you can start to analyze what information is being passed from one place to another and whether it is getting there correctly, it's not being corrupted. So is that level of detail of information flow analyzable, if that's even a word in English?
Yeah. Yes. We can because all the information is stored in a database. We can offload that into the standard database analysis tools, Crystal or lesser systems. Yes, the answer is yes, you can, and we have done it.